afternoon, viewers and listeners. I am Joseph Alumansi. I am based here in Kampala Archdiocese, a member of the Charismatic community in Uganda. I previously was the national coordinator of the Catholic Charismatic Renewal for 14 years. Now, the CCR is started in 1967, but prior to that, maybe I could take us back to the beginning of the century, the last century in 1900s. There was Pope Leo XIII was Pope. Just the year before, 1901, he rallied the whole church to pray the Veni Creator Spiritus. And the church prayed as a whole, worldwide, the Come Holy Spirit, Veni Creator Spiritus. A prayer, an old prayer, an ancient prayer of the church. And with that was also very strangely at the beginning in 1904, I think, the Azusa Street Revival among the Pentecostals, the beginning of the Pentecostal movement worldwide in the United States of America. So fast forwarding, we had these Christians who were not in the Catholic Church who experienced the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. They were not accepted in their church, and they began the Pentecostal movements. And in the meantime, in the Catholic Church, there wasn't anything going on until 1958, when Pope John the 23rd became Pope. And one day he surprised the Vatican bureaucrats and threw open the window and said, "We need a new wind of the Holy Spirit in the church." And with that, he called forth the Second Vatican Council. And there was a prayer that he prepared, that was prepared for the whole church. And that prayer was to renew as by a new Pentecost the graces of the Holy Spirit in the church. And that prayer was said by the whole church. And then there was, of course, the Vatican Council, which ended in 1964. And in 1967, in February 17th and 18th, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a group of students in the Spiritan University, the University of the Holy Spirit, were on a retreat, a weekend retreat. And they, during this retreat, they had a profound experience because they were focusing on the Acts of the Apostles. They are praying through the Acts of the Apostles, and it was and the Acts of the Apostles is basically on the Holy Spirit, the beginnings of the church, and the work of the activity of the Holy Spirit in the church at the beginning, at the foundation of the church. And they had very interesting experience on the second day of the retreat, and there was a Blessed Sacrament exposed in the chapel. They were celebrating a birthday of one of the members, and so one person said, after in the evening, let me go and spend time before the Blessed Sacrament and pray. And he entered into the chapel, and there was something in that chapel. The presence of the Lord was very strong, and he found himself shoes off and prostrate, crying. And he stayed for a while, and then another student came in, and the same thing happened. And then the story went around, and soon all the students, the 32 students who were on that retreat, all ended up in the chapel. And it was, some were crying, some were filled with joy, others were praying in tongues, strange tongues that never happened in the Catholic Church in that sense during this time. And so that was actually the beginning, the birth of the Catholic Charismatic Renewal. Those students left that retreat completely transformed, different. And they went back to their universities, and soon the news went round from university to university, and then the church in America as a whole, and they were filling stadiums for their groups, their meetings, and it was a very powerful move of the Holy Spirit. And so the church got quite interested. The Vatican got interested in what was happening. They were hearing of what was going on in the United States. So they sent Cardinal Sunens, who was the Cardinal Archbishop of Malines in Belgium, and he went to investigate what's this strange, weird things that were happening in the church, the Catholic Church in the United States of America. And what he experienced was really, he felt, and according to his words, was genuine. And there was a grace of God at work in this place, in this country. And so he came back with a very positive report, and the Pope asked him to accompany this new small fledgling group of Catholics. And so in 1975, Pope Paul VI invited all charismatics. Now this had now spread out from the United States. It had already come to Uganda in 1973 with Father Roger Lamonte, who was a missionary, was a missionary of Africa, a priest from America, serving in Kabale Diocese, teaching in Ushoroza Seminary, St. Paul's Seminary, Ushoroza. But he was having some collaboration with a group of sisters and students, and he started in 1973 in Nyamitanga to run what we call some discussions. It was a group, I think the first prayer group, but talks on the Holy Spirit. Talks on the Holy Spirit. So he was making different presentations on the Holy Spirit. And I think it was like more or less the first Life in the Spirit seminars. And again, there was a very deep move of the Holy Spirit amongst those sisters and students at the Poor Clare sisters at the house of the convent of the monastery of the Poor Clares in Barara. And it was very strong. People were speaking in strange tongues. People were experiencing the different gifts of the Holy Spirit, the charisms flowing, healings were taking place, and of course there was a reaction. And wherever some of these things happen, there are reactions that take place. And there was a reaction from Barara Archdiocese. I think this was not well understood, and it was completely new. And so the bishop intervened, and then Father Roger was forced to stop what he was doing in Barara. But the Holy Spirit had already put his foot in, and he continued to move silently. But then later in Masaka, the same year in Masaka, with Father Joseph Kamia, another white father, coming in from Ireland, having experienced it there. Eventually, Father Norbert Dupre in Katigondo Seminary was lecturing in Katigondo National Seminary, and eventually became the first national coordinator of this movement, promoting it throughout all the dioceses in Uganda. So as I was talking about 1975, Pope Paul VI invited all the charismatics to the Vatican in Rome. There were 10,000 charismatics, and they filled, and for the first time, he allowed them to have Mass at St. Peter's Basilica. It was a special way to welcome them home. Welcome to the Catholic Charismatic Renewal, to the heart of the church. And he even gave permission to Cardinal Sunens to lead Mass at the altar of the Pope. So Cardinal Sunens led Mass, and the Pope addressed these charismatics, and he said that this movement is a chance for the church, a chance that the church cannot miss. And he welcomed the charismatics to Rome and wished that this movement would continue to grow. And as I say now, it has spread to over 120 countries worldwide. There are over 120 million Catholics, and it's a grassroots movement. It is the fastest growing grassroots movement in the church so far. And so a lot has taken place in these 50 years. In Uganda, the renewal has spread throughout all the 19 dioceses. We are in basically over 80% of the parishes. And we have prayer groups, over 2,000 prayer groups in this country. And God has worked great things. We're experiencing conversions, deep and profound conversions. Not only with the lay people, but with priests, with religious, with youth, with the young people, with all categories of people. And the Holy Spirit is for everybody. Whether you're a lay person, whether you're religious, whether you're clergy, the Holy Spirit is for all of us. And this great awakening of the Holy Spirit is at work. So thank you very much.